In this video, we will talk about Adobe Layer Panels and why the order the layers are listed matter. The principles discussed in this video apply to both Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator. Let's look at the working drawing of the one-point perspective raster-based drawing. You can see the order of the layers in this Layers panel here. Why are layers important? Layers help to organize information and make it easier to modify a working file. In this case, a working file is a .psd file. Once a file has been compressed, it no longer has layers, which make the file easy to edit. An example of a compressed file is a JPEG, which stands for Joint Photographic Experts Group. When working files are saved into a JPEG format or exported to a JPEG from a working vector file, the file compresses through what is known as lossy compression. Why this matters is that most of the data stored on working files exists on the layers and the layer effects that you create. We'll look at those layers now. When working on projects, you should be working on a Photoshop document. I can ascertain information about a file in two ways. One is the file extension that identifies the file name and type on this tab. If you start a project from a base file that is not a PSD file, which we do often, and is the case here, you must save from the File pull-down menu to Save As, and change the file type from this compressed JPEG file to a Photoshop working drawing. Hit the Save button. Now I look up at the top of my tab and I see that I am in a working drawing as defined by .psd. You add layers one of two different ways. The way that I prefer is through the mini menu. All panel mini menus are located at the top right-hand corner of a panel and are represented by these three horizontal lines. The reason I like mini menus is once you deploy the flyout menu, there are a lot of different options and commands at your fingertips. This is one of the sole ways that I've been able to teach myself new software programs. Prior to adding new layers, I often make a duplicate layer of this background layer. So I can do this from the mini menu, duplicate layer, and you'll see from the thumbnail icon that it looks identical to the layer that came with the file. This is my little bit of insurance. I leave the layer locked and I turn off the visibility eye. We don't need double layers of the exact same pixels. But if anything should go wrong, or if I should, for example, erase a hole through this picture, I always have the photograph behind it to fall back on. This is an example of a fully populated Photoshop file with multiple layers. This part of the tutorial explores layer order. Just like in real life, the background or the floor layer should be shown at the very bottom of the list. The rug must be on a layer above the floor layer. And the table and chairs should be on a layer above the floor layer as well. If you intend for the furniture to be shown on top of a rug, then the furniture layer should also be above the rug layer. So let's look at what happens if we change the order of some of these layers around. Let's say that we put the rug layer below the background or the floor layer. What happens then? If I pick on the band and drag it below, this is how you change the order of the layers, you'll see that the rug disappears. So obviously the rug layer should not exist below the floor layer. Likewise, if I want to move the chair, the chair needs to be above the floor layer as well. If I put the chair below the rug layer, then the rug goes straight through the chair. So I need to at least move the chair above the rug layer. Now here's why the gentleman that I have placed in this picture is located on a layer below the chair. I only had a photograph of a figure from the knees up, so it made sense to place the figure behind the chair, which means that the layer that the man is on has to be located below the chair. It's a good idea to place figures in the background, behind furniture, or on the edge of a composition anyway. We don't want figures to be too distracting from the layout of the interior space. Let's look at some other features. We have this nice artwork, and we also have something here that says picture frame. If I move this black rectangle above the artwork, then it covers the artwork up. All I've done to draw this picture frame is to draw a rectangle, but I know if I drag this artwork above it and drop it, it now looks like a framed piece of artwork. So this is why the order of layers matters. Now there are some things like the little dog where it doesn't matter so much where the dog is located. The one thing that we do know is that the dog must be on a layer above the floor and above the chair. If we put the dog behind the chair, this is what happens. It looks like he's running underneath the chair. It's a real odd looking illustration. We want to make sure that the layer of the little dog is above the chair. The order of layers matters. Just remember that the top layer is the thing that's on the very, very top of the composition. So I have this tree here, and the only thing the tree really needs to be above is the floor, the background layer. So the tree could be all the way down here. It's just that I also have some other layer effects that I've put on that I want to mask a little bit of the tree. We'll talk about that more when we actually get to this project. Remember, as long as you keep objects organized on their own layers, you can easily change the layer order. And in the next video, we will talk about applying special layer effects.